Well, we good. I think we're good. Good morning, everybody. Again, here we are. Today's subject is hauntings. What is it? Hauntings, ghosts, and something else. Do ghosts really exist? We're going to have a lively discussion here. Welcome to my live viewers. Welcome to all of you on YouTube, and let's say hello to my spirit guide Grateful, who is right by my side as always. And further over to my right is my assistant Carolyn. Say hello, Carolyn.
Good
Say
morning.
Good morning. And we have so many questions actually. You know, we get so many questions about all of the subjects that we've talked about and more. And so, of course, at some point, even if your specific question is not answered today, we will revisit some of these topics, some of the more popular topics. We will revisit them and, and have more questions and have more information. So without further ado, let's go to Carolyn for our first question.
Rosaria from Spain writes, should we try to talk to ghosts?
Hello, Rosaria from Spain, and welcome. Well, let's clarify first of all that I do not believe there are such things as ghosts. I know it sounds shocking coming from somebody who talks to dead people, but I don't believe in ghosts. I think that ghosts, or people who are ghosts, are those people who are very much alive, very much in a different place in the spirit world, but very much alive and very much wish to talk to us. So when we see a ghost, when we are referring to ghosts, we might see an apparition or a shadow, or some people actually can see the person fully, and we tend to think of them as ghosts because they are not from our world. When I think of them as people. So during the course of this morning, we are going to be referring to ghosts because people know them as ghosts. But to clarify again, even if I do mention the word ghost, as I'm going to do several times, I don't believe in ghosts. I believe in people who wish to come to us, to visit with us, to talk to us, and they will show themselves in whatever way. So I hope that answers your question, darling. Let's have our next question.
Next question is from Samantha, and she asks, can animals be ghosts?
This is not my daughter, Samantha, right?
No,
Just to clarify, can animals be ghosts? Well, again, I don't believe in ghosts, but yes, our animals can certainly come back to us. My dogs, I've only ever had dogs, so I can only, speak personally of dogs, but I've had friends who have had cats and geese, and I'm trying to think all sorts of animals who we love, animals who have had our nurturing and our loving. Yes, they can come back to us, Samantha. They can connect with us if we're lucky enough and we're open enough and we're sensitive enough to see them. That's wonderful. I've had many of my puppies sitting at my feet, lying by the side of the bed and so on, and it's a wonderful, wonderful experience. So yes, for all of you pet lovers out there, yes. Next question.
Next question is from Fran, and she says, sometimes a storekeeper, a shopper, a passerby stops momentarily to show affection in the same quirky way each deceased friend or relative had. Are my relatives involved in this?
Fran, that's such an interesting question. The simple, straightforward answer is possibly yes. When I'm talking with people in the spirit world, when people come to me to communicate with their loved ones who are still on this earth, very often during the course of a session, my client will say, you look just like my mother when you said that, or, oh goodness, your expression or your hand movements or so on are just like my father or whoever it is. And when I'm talking to people in the spirit world, we sort of communicate. We don't just communicate with our voice. We don't just hear and see. We're communicating through body language. We're communicating through energy. And those in the spirit world can sort of literally infuse you with their energy. Their aura connects with yours. So it's very possible, if not likely, that there are times that, you know, you'll see this in other people. You'll see something of your deceased loved one, someone, you know, some mannerism or some connection. So yes, Fran, it's possible. Next question. We're whipping through these questions, I have to say.
James asks, we all hear psychics talk about hearing from people who have passed, but is it possible to hear a voice or see a person who is very much alive, who is not anywhere around you at the time? I've never heard anyone talking about hearing from anyone who may not have passed yet and be very much alive.
Well, I'm one of those people. In fact, I don't remember which book it is of mine, but I certainly write this story in one of my books. I'll tell you a story, and that might, would you like a story? I'm hearing you all say, yes, we'd love a story. Okay, so many, many years ago, a lady came to see me. Her aunt, her great aunt, it was actually, had gone missing. And nobody could find her. Nobody seemed to know where she was. And she'd apparently just wandered off. She was sort of fairly old, and she'd wandered off, and they'd lost her. So she came to see me to see if perhaps she had died. And the interesting thing was, it was not difficult to connect with the great aunt. I saw her. She came to me just as people do when they have passed. She came to me. She, you know, she talked to me. She talked to me about her health issues. She talked to me about the family and what the family were doing. One would presume from this then that she was dead. But I said to my client, which I shall say to you, it is possible if someone is in a coma, it is possible for them to leave their physical body, just as we do when we die. The difference is, and we talked about this last week, the difference is that when we die, we leave our body, our etheric body leaves our physical body. When we have out-of-body experiences, we're able to travel around, and we're able to visit people, and we're able to see what's going on. When we pass, it is the same way. The etheric body leaves the physical body. However, that silver cord or that silver thread that we spoke about last week is broken. So it's possible, and this has happened to me many, many times, because I've spoken to people in hospitals who've been in comas. I had a patient who was in a coma, and when I went in to see him and to give him healing, I saw him standing outside of his body, and we had a great conversation. Am I seeing a ghost? What am I seeing? What am I seeing? And we had this great conversation, this guy and I, about whether or not and when he should leave his family, because he was very concerned about them. He wanted me to reassure them that he was okay before he died, as he was in the process of leaving permanently. But back to the story of this lady who was looking for her great aunt. I was able to locate the great aunt. I was able to talk to the great aunt and have lots of conversations, and I was able to describe her health issues. But I did say to this client of mine, look, you know, just because I'm able to talk to her doesn't necessarily mean she's dead. And my feeling, because I have Grey Eagle to help me, my feeling is that she actually is in someplace safe. You're going to find her, and that she is not dead yet. But when I first began, and had I not had Grey Eagle, I could easily have assumed that she was dead and gone, because there she was right in front of me, talking to me, just as happens when I communicate with those who have died. It was only 2 or 3 weeks later that I got a call from my client to say, yes, you were right. She was in a hospital. She didn't have any identity on her, so it took them a while to locate the family, but she was back, she was safe, and out of the coma, which was a great thing. So that's a yes to that question, I think. Who asked that question? Who was it?
That was James.
Sorry, James, I got so caught up in the story. So there you have your answer, but it's more common than you would think. Next question.
We've got a live question from Val. She's watching from Ontario, Canada.
Hi, Val from Ontario, Canada.
She says, if you feel a departed loved one near you, does that mean they are haunting you? And if you no longer feel them around, does it mean they're gone for good?
No, it doesn't mean that they're haunting, and no, it doesn't mean that they're gone for good. It just simply means that, how can I put this? When those in the spirit world, you know, they love us, they care about us, and they, especially when we're grieving, they want us to know that they're with us. So we'll often feel their presence. When we don't feel their presence anymore, when we feel that lacking in presence, then, you know, that's because they feel that we're feeling better, that we're okay. It means that, you know, they feel that we're managing much better and they don't need to be around us, because they do have things to do, you know, and they do have places to go, people to see. So, you know, so if you don't feel your loved ones around you, but you used to, don't worry about it. It's because they feel more confident in you and they feel that you're okay and that you don't need their help quite as much. Okay, let's have our next question.
That is Nadia from the West. Not sure where out west.
Or even in the world out west.
Right.
Okay.
She asks, are Ouija boards dangerous?
I would say absolutely, without a doubt, and no hesitation whatsoever, yes, they are. However, if you have someone like myself with you, then they are not so dangerous. If you have protection and you know how to protect yourself, then they are not so dangerous. But it's a little bit like if I said to you, would you open your door and invite in all the strangers you can see on the street, regardless of whether you knew them or not? And the answer would be, well, what a dangerous and stupid thing that would be. Well, sitting with a Ouija board or sitting and trying to communicate with those in the spirit world, like, you know, hey, here I am, I'm opening myself up. And that's what happens with the Ouija board. We say, is there anybody there? Of course, there are lots of people there. Is there anybody there who loves us and cares for us? Yes. But there are also people who are, so could be wandering by or looking for some mischief or looking to create mischief, and there they are. So, you know, you be very careful when you're doing this stuff. Make sure that you say the prayer of protection, and make sure that you have someone with you who knows how to protect you and when to stop, because people do get themselves into quite a fix working with these things. And, you know, it's not good. I have such a great story about that. But anyway, we're moving on because we have so many questions. We don't have time for too many stories. So let's move on to our next question.
We've got Comena. She's, or he is live. And they said, if a person has the gift of spiritual mediumship, wouldn't that be clearly evident at a very, very early age?
We're not sure if we're pronouncing your name correctly, but we very excited that you're watching us live, and thank you for your question. I would say that any natural medium, I'm a natural medium, I'm a, you know, I know that there are people who train to be mediums, and there are people who say, yes, I can teach you how to be a medium. I would never teach anyone how to be a medium, because, you know, being a natural medium, that it's a little bit like, you know, somebody can play the piano instantly, immediately, really well, or they have to take lessons. The person who is instantly and immediately able to play the piano will have, you know, just such natural talent. whereas the person who has to learn to play the piano will not have such natural talent, and that's the difference. So it is possible that people can learn the art of mediumship, but they're never going to be as good as that person who has that natural talent, which will show itself and be evident from almost from the moment they're born, from a very early and very young age. Hope that answers that question. Next question.
Next question is Bethany from Washington.
Hello, Bethany from Washington.
What is a shadow person?
What is a shadow person? Well, oh gosh, the ancients, and I'm not just talking about the Native Americans. I'm, you know, even from the Stone Age, from the, you know, the ancient cultures that we have around the world, often referred to the shadow people. And shadow people are simply people from that other world. Some people call it the nether world, we call it the spirit world. Whichever culture you come from, you have your own, you know, idea and name for that other world. And shadow people are simply people who seem to most of us to be in shadow, to stay in the shadows, because we can't see them. We don't have the ability to see them and to be able to know them and to know that they're there. I could say that my father is a shadow person, except that to me is not a shadow person. To me, he's a person I can see. The ancients and the ancient cultures and the Native American cultures, they believed that shadow people, the shadow people could help them with their medicines. They could help them with their dream visions. Yes, they can. But shadow people are simply those people who are living in that other world and have their own lives, but come to us in times of need, or they come to us as Grail comes to me, to help and to guide and to steer us. Next question.
We've got Gregory, and he asks, what's the difference between a haunting and a poltergeist?
Oh, Gregory, this is a great question. Thank you for asking the question. The difference, I'm not sure that there is a difference, but simply, easily, a poltergeist, we refer to poltergeist as sort of naughty spirits or mischievous spirits. Many years ago, and here comes a story, many years ago, I had a client of mine who, she came to me for a consultation. The first thing she said to me was, I don't believe in all of this. I've only come to make up the numbers. Okay, says I. Well, what can I do for you? And she said, well, I don't really know. Just do your thing. So as she was talking, I immediately saw a man standing just behind her. He was the same age as her, looked very similar to her. She was in her 50s. And so he said to me, you know, I'm the twin. So I said to her, oh, are you a twin? And she said, no. I said, are you sure you're not a twin? She said, no. I said, well, then are you a Gemini? Because this man behind her kept saying, I'm a twin, I'm a twin, I'm a twin. She, no. So then I said to this man standing behind her, you're going to have to tell me, you know, what you mean. Can you explain? He said, yes, I died as a baby. I was 4 days old. So I explained this to my client, and she immediately said, oh my goodness, I'd forgotten all about it. She'd forgotten that she was in fact a twin. She'd forgotten that her twin brother had died at 4 days old. Well, from there, the brother told her about her daughters, about her family, about her life, and so on and so forth. Where are we going with the poltergeist thing here, you wonder? Well, there was a point where her two daughters were teenagers, and they lived in this house which they believed was haunted. And they believed it was haunted because every morning when they went into the bathroom, the towels were strewn all over the place. No matter how neatly and tidily they left the bathroom before they went to bed, the next morning when they woke up, the towels would be on the floor, the towels would be in the bathtub. I don't know if it happened anywhere else in the house, but it was very specific to the bathroom that I was being told about. So my client was saying, well, how do you know this? Or how do you know about this? And I said, well, you know, this guy, this your twin is telling me. And I said, so then he's talking to me about Charlie. So who's Charlie? The woman went a little bit pale. My client went a little bit pale. She said, oh my goodness, we named the poltergeist Charlie, because they thought that they had a poltergeist in this house who kept tossing the towels and moving the towels and doing mischievous things around the house. We called him Charlie. My daughters called him Charlie. She said, we were never afraid of him, but we nicknamed him Charlie. So I said, well, would it surprise you to know that your brother is saying to you that he is Charlie? And he was the one throwing towels about. He was the one making the mess. He was the one trying to get them to take notice of him, which they did. Unfortunately, they didn't realize who he was. They nicknamed him Charlie, thinking he was a poltergeist, but he was simply this woman's brother, trying in every way he could, and sometimes in mischievous ways, to be noticed. So a poltergeist is that person in the spirit world, not the ghost, you know how I feel about ghosts, the person in the spirit world who is going to try to get your attention for whatever reason. And in this case, the reason was that this man really, really wanted his family to know him, and to know that he was there, and to know that he was part of the family, and to know that he was enjoying their lives with them, and growing old with his sister, which was interesting. Next question.
Marissa from Arizona. She asks, what harm would it do if ghosts could really talk to us?
Well, no harm whatsoever, because I talk to them all the time, darling. Thank you, Marissa, for that question. I'm laughing because, again, I remember I don't believe in ghosts. I believe in people who connect with the spirit world. And when they talk to us, I mean, they want to talk to us. They want to converse with us. They want to communicate with us. They want us to know that they're around and loving us and trying to guide us and to steer us. In fact, rather than do any harm, if we could all listen a little bit more intently, if we could all be a little bit more aware of our own selves and make ourselves more aware of being able to communicate with the spirit world, not only would it not do harm, it would do the greatest good, because we would feel, you know, so much better. People often say to me, Rosemary, how do you deal with all these people who are around you all the time? What does it feel like? Well, I have to tell you that I look at all of you. I look at all of you who don't see and who can't connect. And I look at you and I think, I wonder what it must be like. Don't you feel lonely? Don't you get a little lonely sometimes? Aren't you a little sad sometimes that, you know, you don't have people to talk to? So whereas it's hard for the people, I do understand it's hard for the people to figure out how I deal with things, how I deal with the spirit world, I look at you all and I feel so sad that you're not able to do what I do. I feel so sad for you that you're not able to make those communications and connections. Let's have our next question.
All right, we've got Jillian watching live from Cape Coral, Florida.
Hello, Jillian, live from Cape Coral.
She says, just yesterday, a black shadow passed by my door and turned his head to look at me. Could it have been my spirit guide?
It's more likely that it was someone in your family trying to let you know that they're there, trying to connect with you. I have Grey Eagle standing he has put his hand on my shoulder, and as he does occasionally, I'm going to say that I think this is an uncle who passed, and quite suddenly and quite quickly, just simply trying to let you know that he's around. Let's have our next question.
Chet from Mexico says, can an angry ghost hurt someone physically?
Chet from Mexico, hello. I'm loath to say no, and I'm certainly not going to say yes. So this is one of these connecting with Grey Eagle. So physically, no, unless you allow them in. And this comes back to that great story I was going to tell, but we really don't have time for. So we'll maybe have this question in one of our other sessions. An angry person in the spirit world. Remember, I don't believe in ghosts. So an angry person in the spirit world, you know, can vent their anger, or they can vent their spite. They can affect us if we allow them to. They can affect us emotionally if we sense that anger and that frustration. But it's not usual. And so I'm going to say, you know, if you ever find yourself in that situation where you might feel some sort of an animosity or animosity from someone in the spirit world, you know, say your prayer, say your protective prayer. Dear God, help me. Dear God, be with me. I want to have my angels surround me, and it will simply go away. But it's, you know, not something that happens often, and when it does, it's more likely to affect you emotionally. But we know, and this is why I'm hesitating, we know that when we are emotionally stressed, that can affect us physically. So I feel as if I've not answered that satisfactorily, but it's the best I can do for now. Let's have our next question.
Jennifer asks, are women more likely to see ghosts than men because we're more sensitive?
Well, we are, aren't we? Oh boy, Jennifer. No. I think that men can be equally sensitive in a different way, and I've known and know of many wonderful men who have a tremendous sensitivity. You know, yes, men can be insensitive, but boy, oh boy, have I met women who can be so insensitive. So let's be careful with the gender thing here. I think it's, you know, equally easy for men and for women. I think it has to do with the sensitivity and not the gender. Shall we have our next question?
Jillian, live from Cape Coral, wanted to let you know that her uncle did pass many years ago, very suddenly and unexpectedly.
Jillian, you had a message from the spirit world. Oh, how nice. And thank you for letting us know that. Now, you see, all of those of you who are listening and all of those who are paying attention, you know, when Grey Eagle steps in on our question time, he steps in and he puts his hand on my shoulder like this, and this is for you, Jillian, but it's for so many people out there. He's trying to, you know, Grey Eagle is saying to you or affirming to you that this is your uncle then, and he did die suddenly, and he's visited you in your house, and how nice is that for you? So if you do see this again, Jillian, if you do have this connection again, don't forget, don't be too amazed that you can't speak. Say hello. Nice. Thank you, darling. Yes, next question.
Jessica via email asks,
it feels so good to get it right, don't you think? Go ahead.
Why do some ghosts show themselves and others don't?
Well, again, ghosts, we're using the term ghosts. And why do some people show themselves and others don't? I don't think it's that some people do and some people don't. I think it's that some we can see and some we can't. I don't think it's down to them not showing themselves. I think it's down to our sensitivity, what we're doing at the time, how sensitive we are in that moment. And you know, very often there are people in the spirit world who are calling our name and calling and calling and calling, and because we're not in that space, or we're not in, you know, connecting in that right way, we simply don't hear them. We just don't hear them. So don't think it's because they don't want to be there. Don't think it's because they're not with us. It's simply, it's us. For whatever reason, we are not seeing or hearing or connecting quite at that right time. Let's have our next question.
We've got Peggy live from Port Charlotte, Florida.
Hello. Oh, that's just down the road. Hello, Peggy, live.
She lost her soulmate 5 years ago to cancer after taking care of him for 3 years until his passing. She says, I've been looking for a visit from him and haven't seen him. Why? I miss him dearly.
Oh, Peggy, I'm so sorry for your loss, and I'm sure he's around. And again, if we go back to that last question, when you say you haven't seen him, doesn't mean he's not there. When you say you haven't, you haven't had any connection with him, again, doesn't mean that he's not there. And you may have connected with or seen other people much more easily, but this is what happens. And this is why I'm saying when we aren't able to make a connection with someone in the spirit world, it's not that they're not there, it's often our frame of mind or our sensitivity or how we're feeling. Very often when we are surrounded by grief and we're in the grief, that grief can act as a barrier. It can act as a wall, so that we're not able to see as clearly as we might. We're not able to be as aware perhaps as we might otherwise be with people who we're not so grief-stricken over. So I'm going to suspect, darling, that you are so much in grief that unconsciously and totally unaware, I'm sure you are, there's a barrier that, it's almost like, don't let me in because I don't want to be hurt anymore. And I think, that's why you're on some subconscious level preventing yourself from seeing, feeling, connecting with your darling. And but I'm pretty sure he's there with you. I'm pretty sure he's there with you every day in some way or another, tapping you on the shoulder. And when you are ready, and when your grief has lessened, perhaps, it's going to be that one moment, and he's going to see him, and everything will be fine. But he is there with you. Let's have our next question.
Okay, I know the personal question has a story that's going to take quite a few minutes.
Okay.
So we're going to give you the personal question, and if any more live questions come in, if we have time, we'll get those.
Oh, okay. So we're asking the personal question first and then doing some more live ones. Okay.
Okay.
Really? Okay.
All right.
All right. This is different. Yes.
What is one of the oddest hauntings that you can tell us about?
Okay. Well, in some ways, this story goes back to a question that we had earlier, and I think that question was from James, if I can't believe, because I usually forget people's names instantly, but I think James asked a question about, do we ever see people who are, who are alive? Are we able to communicate with them when they're not in front of us, or something like that? I think the question went. So this is the story, and it's a bit of an odd story. It's an unusual story. So one day many years ago, I had a frantic phone call from this woman. I'd never met her before, didn't know her. She was not a client of mine. Frantic phone call, crying, sobbing. We don't know what to do. My husband's being haunted. So I calmed down. I said, can you explain, what's happening? So she said, well, he for weeks now, almost every night, he wakes up in the middle of the night, screaming and yelling, get off me, leave me alone, sobbing and sobbing, please leave me alone. She said, we're at the point now where he doesn't want to sleep. He can't sleep. He's afraid that if he closes his eyes, this person will come to haunt him again. She said, even now it's sort of gone into his office, and this man apparently was a big businessman. He had a nice big office and a big armchair that he used to go take a nap in, and can't do that anymore either. She says, this is happening now in his office, and now he's afraid to go out. He's afraid to go to his office. He's afraid to go to sleep at night. She said, can you help us? So I agreed to go and visit the house, because if someone has a haunting, I guess that's where you start first. So off I went. I took a friend with me, and we went to the house, and there was the husband, very reluctant, I have to tell you, very reluctant to have me there. very keen to tell me, look, he didn't believe in it, except that he was at his wit's end. He was desperate, so he was willing to try anything, and I was the last resort. So very quickly, I was able to connect with this man's grandmother, who had brought him up. She was very fond of him, he was very fond of her, and very quickly it became evident that the grandmother knew so much about him and so much so much about his life as a boy and so on, that it was obviously her, and there was no denying it. So now all of a sudden the man is, not only I don't believe in anymore, now he's on the edge of his seat because he wants to hear what else his grandmother has to tell him. But as I'm talking to the grandmother, I felt very strongly that she was holding back. I didn't know why she was holding back, but I felt very strongly that she was holding back information. Because after all, I really hadn't come there to give him messages from his grandmother. I'd come there to find out what was going on. Why couldn't he sleep? Why did every time he closed his eyes, did he feel that someone was, attacking him, trying to get to him, and as he put it, trying to get inside of him? Why had this gone to his office? And that's what I was there for. But each time I asked the grandmother, can you explain it, she would just give me more information about his childhood and so on and so on. At some point, when I'm thinking, what am I going to do about this? Because we're not getting to the nitty gritty. We're not getting the problem. Gregor put his hand on my shoulder, as you know he does. And he said, just be patient and just wait. So a little while later, maybe 5 minutes later, the man's wife, the one who'd called me, said to me, I'm sorry, Rosemary, I don't want to disturb you, but I have to take the dog for a walk. I'll be back in about 10 minutes. Is that all right? And I said, yes, of course. Knowing at that point that this is just what we were waiting for. So off she went. And the moment we heard the door click shut behind her, the grandmother began to talk to her grandson, who was in his late 50s, I might add, in a very no-nonsense way. So I say, listening to the grandmother and repeating what she said, I say to this man, so I understand that this person who's haunting you is a woman. And he sort of looked at me, and yes. So I said, and you know her? No, he said, I don't know her. So I said, let's get to the chase. Let's cut to the chase here. Your wife is coming back in 10 minutes and we need to sort this out before she comes back. Unless you'd like to talk to me about this when she's here. And he became very subdued. And I said, the woman who's haunting you at night and the woman who's coming to you in your sleep state is your girlfriend of 20 years. Is that right? This is what your grandmother is telling me. And he didn't know what to say. Because, of course, it was true. Now, how could his girlfriend of 20 years, who is still living, come to haunt him in his dreams at night, come to haunt him in his office? How could that be? Well, it turns out, and I'm cutting a very long story very short here, it turns out that, well, after 20-something years, he'd ended the relationship. Now, she'd gone along with this relationship thinking that because he'd promised her again and again and again and again and again over the years, he was going to leave his wife once the kids had grown up and left home, once the business was sorted out, the old story, he had no intention of leaving his wife. And he finally, when she started pushing, the girlfriend started pushing and saying, well, everything's okay now, there's no reason. And if you're not careful, I'm just going to go and tell your wife what's been happening. And he ended the relationship with her. Well, the girlfriend was so frustrated and so angry and upset. Maybe she did this consciously, or maybe it was a subconscious thing on her part, and we will never know. And I'm not going to ask Gregor because it's not our business. But on some level, consciously or subconsciously, this woman in her sleep state was leaving her body and going to visit this man, and she was angry because of what he'd done to her, and perhaps quite rightly too. And so she was, you know, letting him know that she was not going to leave him, that she was always going to be with him, and that he could never get rid of her no matter what he did. Well, of course, he hadn't told his wife this part of the story. He just said someone, he didn't know who, was haunting him. But the grandmother spilled the beans. Now, you see, there are no secrets. You cannot have secrets from the spirit world. You might think you're having an affair and nobody knows about it, but somebody does. Or perhaps many somebodies. So this was this unusual, yes, he was being haunted, but he was being haunted by someone who wasn't dead yet. Very confusing. Well, we got all of this out, and this poor man was sobbing by the time, you know, as you could imagine, as we do, and he's begging me, what can we do? What can we do? How can I stop it? How can I get rid of it? And I was able to say to him that with Grey Eagle's help, we would stop this from happening, because there are certain things you can do to stop these things happening. By the time his wife came back, 10 or 15 minutes later, with the dog, everything had been settled. We spoke a little more. The grandmother gave him more messages, some of them a little cryptic, as you can imagine, because the grandmother was furious. She loved her grandson's wife. She was a wonderful person. She was furious with her grandson that he could cheat and lie and so on, and she made it very plain to him. The wife never knew the true reason behind any of this. I don't think he ever told her. Certainly, why would he? But I can remember as we're leaving, and they're both very grateful and saying thank you, and the wife is feeling better because I'm saying to her, you know, whatever the problem is, I will deal with it. We will deal with it. It will not happen again. But if for any reason it does, give me a call. And so she was happy, and the husband was, of course, relieved. And we're standing at the door about to leave, and the grandmother says, tell him I have one more message for him. So I look at this man and I say, oh, by the way, before I go out the door, your grandmother just has one more message for you. And he pales slightly because he doesn't know what's coming. And his grandmother says to him, I am watching you. I see everything that you do. Remember, I'm watching you. So be a good boy. And we left. Isn't that a weird story? How can a woman haunt when she probably doesn't even know she's doing it either? Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. My feeling is perhaps she didn't. But sometimes we get so angry and we get so frustrated about things that, you know, we do things that we wouldn't normally do. In her sleep state, her spirit left her body and was able to come to this man and climb on him and not physically shake him, but shake him in a way that he would never forget. And of course he was screaming, of course he was crying, of course he was terrified. He had something to be terrified about. He had to be terrified of this woman's anger, and he also had to be terrified that his wife might find out, and then where would he be? So the message to this story is, be good, don't cheat, don't lie, don't do all of those things that people in the spirit world can see, and never, ever, ever think that somebody can't see.
We have time for one more question. It came in over email.
All right.
It's a good question
All
since
right.
of the holiday coming up.
Okay.
Does Halloween make spirits more active? Mary Ann wants to know.
Marianne, well, let me think. No, I don't think so, but we are having our Halloween. Are we doing that next week? Or the week after? Whenever
contest.
Is it?
Rosemary Live contest.
No, the Halloween show.
Oh, next week, next Thursday.
So next week I'm going to be wearing my witch's hat, and I shall have my broom next to me. And we're going to be taking questions about, let's go to, what is it
Halloween.
about? Halloween, the history of Halloween, what Halloween means to us, and in reference to this live question, so join us next week. Who are you again?
Marianne.
Marianne. So join us, Marianne, live next week if you can. If not, you can still see us, connect with YouTube. You can still see us afterwards. And we're going to talk about, you know, these things and a little bit of the history of Halloween and what it means to us. And, you know, do ghosts walk on this earth, and what does that mean too? What does Halloween mean? So have your questions ready. In the meantime, we've had several people asking her how to get hold of the audio of The Eagle and the Rose. This is the audio. It's out this year. It's 20th anniversary. You can do it one of two ways. You can go to our website, www.rosemaryaltea.com. And if you can't find it there for whatever reason, or you can't do that, just email us at rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. We've also been having people ask, how can we get Angels in Training? And it's the same thing. So for any of our books, CDs, any of those things, you can sort of either go to our email, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com, and Carolyn will send you a link to go to the website to get your stuff, and you can just click on the link and there it will be. I think you have to pay by credit card, is that right? Yeah, so we don't take any other method of payment, only credit cards, but it's very simple and easy. We've tried to make it as easy as possible. Or you can go straight to the website to see what else is there. What else? Twitter, we do Twitter, we do Facebook, we do all of those things. We are at some point going to finish off the limoncello. So we're doing another kitchen show. It's probably going to be all of 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but I'm going to be talking you through how to make your own limoncello. I'm making mine. I started this 6 weeks ago, and today is the day that we put in the syrup. We're making a simple syrup, which is sugar and water, which is added to lots of good stuff. I don't know why I'm telling you this now here, because I'm going to be telling you on the kitchen show how to make your own limoncello, which is great. What else are we going to be doing? That video is going to be coming out in the next 2 or 3 days probably. What else?
And then next Thursday you have the Halloween show.
Then next Thursday we have the Halloween show. I hope all of you live viewers will be wearing your Halloween costumes. My grandson is going as what's he going as? Batman. And my daughter is going to be Catwoman, and I'm going up there because my daughter's having surgery, so I'm going up there for that. But I'm also going with my witch's hat, and I'll find a broom when I get there. They'll look at me very strangely if I go on the plane with a broom, and it's too far to travel on a broom from here to New York, so I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to go on the plane. It gets a bit chilly, you know, traveling all that way on the broom. Anything else we have to say? I think
the live contest starts November 2nd.
I forgot the live contest. All right, the live contest starts November 2nd, and I will be in New York City. So we're going to have a recorded show. Still in the theme, I think, of Halloween, because it's close to Halloween. We're going to have spooky stories and things. Is that when we're going to do that, or is that next week?
November. That'll be next week.
Okay. Yes. However, at some point on November 2nd, we do start the contest. Will we have the drawing on the 2nd?
No, the drawing will be the following week.
So the drawing will be the following week. So on November 2nd will be the first question. Remember, you cannot participate in this competition if you don't subscribe to YouTube. Subscribing does not cost you anything, but it's important to us because it means that we build up our presence on YouTube. So please subscribe and look forward to the competition. I am going to be doing a little short, perhaps a little 5 or 10 minute video as well, talking a little bit more about the competition before the 2nd, before November 2nd. probably overwhelmed you all with so many things. However, thank you for watching for now. I shall see you again next time.
1 second.
Oh, 1 second, yes.
Everybody has until Tuesday, the 25th, to send in their questions about power symbols and power animals.
Oh, we're going to be talking about power symbols and power animals
on November 3rd.
On November 3rd. We have had so many emails. Thank you all for that. Thank you for, your input. But we're going to be talking about power symbols, power animals. What do they mean to us? Why do we have them? What do we mean? You please send in your questions. We need you to send them in as soon as possible. And so until next time, thank you very much and have a blessed, blessed day.